cheeky little two-seater passing its tests with flying colors in the sky over Danbury, Connecticut is called the Airphibian. It's an airborne automobile, a new approach to the old problems of traffic hazards and getting somewhere in a hurry. The propeller comes off in a jiffy. Just a few turns is all it takes for the inventor of the novel craft. The Airphibian was designed and built by a company headed by Robert Fulton, an air-age descendant of the steamboat inventor. There are two locks to disconnect and the wing assembly is detached. It's easy to operate, easy to fly, and on the road it does an easy 45 miles per hour. It may not be long before the Airphibian is a common sight around local airports. The airplane is now at home on the highway.
Previously on the Homefront.
Exactly what did happen to your leg?
I tore the cartilage in my knee and it didn't heal right.
I had a teammate went through what you're going through.
A teammate?
Yeah, I told you I played in the Negro League.
Did you ever bat against Satchel Paige?
Oh, many times. Don't ask my average against him. Matter of fact, it was Satchel's liniment that got my teammate back on the field.
The one that had torn cartilage?
Yeah, stuff smelled awful. You put some of that on you, nobody wanted to come near you. Everybody be asking Satchel what was in it. He said it's just secret formula, wouldn't tell soul. But he was always generous and giving it to whoever needed it.
Could you get some of that from him?
We're not talking shop anymore, are we?
We haven't been for the last hour, in case you didn't notice.
Which is why I'm leaving.
Why? Because your life is so conventional that it can't accommodate one unplanned evening.
Because I don't believe in office romances.
Well, then I'll recommend you for a job at the Plain Dealer.
It gives me great personal pride to announce what I consider the crowning achievement of Sloan Industries, Heritage Village.
First model is completed and open to the public. How come they're so expensive? These are high-quality homes constructed by the finest trade unionists around, Mr. Nadolski.
You haven't heard? Nadolski died.
Died?
He got soused and ran himself into a tree. They had to cut him out.
Never once saw him get behind the wheel drunk, not once.
I'm sorry to see your colleague passed away.
Did you know him?
I had hired him to write some promotional material for Heritage Village. Nadolski was going to bring us the research, but he died before he did.
Mike just came over to see if I had some papers of Nadolski's. Only I didn't know that was what he was after at the time.
Doesn't mean Mike Sloan's a murderer.
You never know what people are capable of doing.
His widow knows nothing. His editor knows nothing. If anyone finds his research, if he even kept a file, if it hasn't been tossed in the trash by some cleaning lady, no one will be able to make hide nor hair of it. We have nothing to worry about. You wake the dead. Honestly, Michael, if you keep annoying me, I will call the police.
Read this first.
I have Nadolski's file, which I'll gladly return for a $10,000 reward. I'll contact you tomorrow. $10,000, Michael.
I assume you no longer want to call the police.
You got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. You gotta spread joy up to the maximum, bring gloom down to the minimum. Have faith or pandemonium, liable to walk upon the scene. To illustrate my last remark,
Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark.
what did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said you got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between.
Good morning.
Morning.
Last time I remember sneaking in carrying my shoes
I didn't want to wake anyone.
was when I was living with my father, who was a bear even on his best day, and I had been out all night tying one on, and not only did I have to carry my shoes, I had to hold onto the wall to steady myself.
Well, I can walk a straight line with the best of them. I was working late. Not that you need an explanation.
I don't need an explanation, and I'm not asking for one.
I'm a grown woman now.
Absolutely. But I know your mother.
I don't think she heard me.
I know your mother, and your mother would be worried about you if she did hear you coming in so late. Or should I say early, now that the sun's coming up.
The light did not come on in the kitchen. Whenever Mother wakes up, she turns on the light.
Your mother would be worried about you because she's concerned for your welfare.
Oh, hi. Tied one on last night, did you?
No, I didn't.
Had to work late, huh? That excuse never worked for me.
Next time, put your shoes on before you reach the landing, then no one will be the wiser.
We are not paying a penny. Not a penny. You were a fool to ever give that reporter a dime. There's no guarantee if we pay the $10,000 that he or they won't be back the next day asking for more. And when their appetite for money is sated, if it ever is, they could very well turn the material over to the district attorney anyway. Blackmail never ends unless one takes steps to end it.
What steps are you proposing?
We won't know how to deal with the blackmailer until we find out who it is, so our immediate concentration has to be on ferreting out this individual. Linda Metcalf worked at the newspaper with Mr. Nadolski. She could have had access to his files.
If Linda Metcalf had that information, she'd shout it from the rooftops.
Morning, sleepyhead.
Did anybody read my story on the Sloan housing development? No.
No, I've been reading about this loyalty oath they're putting into Taft-Hartley.
We'll look on page 3.
You want me to read it out loud?
No, just pass it around so everyone gets a look at it.
Did you run across anything strange about Heritage Village?
No.
Judy Owen thinks there's something fishy going on.
What?
She doesn't know.
That is my story. What?
No, she's just curious.
Can't imagine why a simple housing development would be so important that someone would want to steal the story. For that matter, I can't imagine why someone would stay out till dawn to write about it. Didn't you have to turn in that article hours earlier to make the morning edition? Yes, I did. I was doing some research on a follow-up story. I lost track of time. Sorry if I woke you. You woke me. Judy woke me. Judy? This seems more like a hotel than a home. Judy was here?
She slept on the couch.
Why?
She thought someone broke into her apartment looking for a file or something.
Maybe Mr. Nadolski showed his file to his wife. Or his mistress, if he had one. Most men over 40 seem to.
I talked to his widow. She seemed quite sincere.
It's hardly proof of the pudding. Who else has shown an interest in Heritage Village? Or in Nadolski? Well?
A reporter at the paper cleaned out Nadolski's desk.
Which reporter?
Judy Owen.
You old fool. I told you she was after your money.
She is not a blackmailer.
You can believe a cheap blonde is in love with you and risk going to jail, or you can face the truth.
How can I help you, Miss Owen?
I understand you used to farm the land where Michael Sloan is building Heritage Village.
I had a nursery up there.
It's a beautiful piece of property.
Yes, it is.
It has an interesting history. I heard President Garfield slept there.
Is that so?
That's what I was told.
Well, that would have been before my time. There weren't any buildings on that property till I bought it. Now, maybe he went hunting up there once, but I really couldn't say.
So you've never heard any stories about Garfield?
Well, I know he was assassinated, but I couldn't tell you where.
Here, Abe.
Welcome home, Mrs. Sloan. Thank you, Gloria.
Take your things up to your room.
Thank you, Abe. Gloria, would you air out the guest room and make certain there are clean linens? Yes, ma'am. I'm expecting company and I want everything ready. I'll do it right now. Thank you.
What company?
I don't want Abe and Gloria gossiping, but I do want clean sheets. I'll sleep in the guest room and make the bed in the morning before Gloria arrives. Otherwise, every domestic in River Run will know we keep separate bedrooms.
Which will hardly matter if we're behind bars.
You may wish you were. I'm filing for divorce the minute we get rid of this extortionist.
Linda? I got the scoop on everyone. This is the farmer who used to own the land where Heritage Village is built. And I found that out from a gardener who I talked to when I went to visit the model at Heritage Village. The model is powder blue on the outside with ivy wallpaper in the kitchen, but yellow countertops. I would have made the countertops green to match the ivy. And the homes sell for $8,000, which I think is a little steep.
Ginger, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I called in sick yesterday, so I couldn't get off today.
Well, if you're going to be a full-time reporter, you're just going to have to give up your day job.
I can't wait. I love the newspaper office. Ginger, have you ever dated anyone you worked with?
Worked with?
A co-worker, someone you met at the office?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't believe in office romances. It was completely unprofessional. How can you face a coworker the next morning when you've been kissing him the night before?
Oh, Lord, it's Phil.
Who's Phil? Shh. You're blushing.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Phil. This is my friend Ginger Szabo. Ginger, this is Philip Havel. He's my editor at the newspaper.
Ah, Philip Havel.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, well, if you two will excuse me, I'll be off. If you need anything else, I'll be at WREQ. Bye, Phil. Thanks.
I see I'm too late to take you to lunch.
You can have half my bologna sandwich.
Ah,
Slow day at the office?
not particularly.
Oh,
I wanted to see how you're doing today.
I'm right as rain.
Good.
But I don't want to talk about last night. And I remember telling you never to mention it again.
All right. What a delicious sandwich this is.
I've never acted like that before.
Well, then it's about time you let your hair down.
Phil,
Linda?
I don't know what to say. Can we talk about work? I want to talk about work. I want to know why Judy Owen is snooping around Heritage Village. That is my story.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Judy Owen has wormed her way into writing for the sports section. Now she's trying to worm her way into my story, and I won't let her.
Since when is there a story? You wrote a nice little piece for a nice little ribbon-cutting ceremony for a nice little housing development. I see no reason why anybody should write a follow-up.
I believe we can eliminate one suspect. I went to see Mrs. Nadolski. I told her I valued her husband's work for our company and offered her cash in case she needed help.
And?
She turned it down. It seems her husband left her a large life insurance policy.
That would be a convenient excuse to cover income from a blackmail scheme.
I checked with her insurance agent. She's telling the truth.
That moves your little blonde to the top of the list.
Metcalf, isn't it?
Hi. I've been meaning to call you.
If you'd been to call, you would have.
I'm sorry. I had a great time with you.
Apparently not quite so great.
I know it was. We're very different people.
I'm a woman, you're a man. I'm short, you're tall. I'm blonde, you're brunette.
You're not gonna make this easy on me, are you?
Why should I? I know every word you're going to say. You really are terribly fond of me, but you don't see a future together, and you hope I find happiness with some man who can appreciate me. If the truth be known, I don't think any of you is good enough for me.
I know I seem like a heel.
All men are heels, love. Heels or louses.
I am sorry.
Good.
Will you take over my station? I need a break.
Sure, Slugger. Can I get you another one?
No, thanks.
Hello.
Hello.
I suppose you remember me.
Yes, Mrs. Sloan.
I wanted to spare you the chore of explaining yours and Michael's association to me. My husband might have told you that I was upset when I first heard about it, and that is true, but it was a momentary misunderstanding.
I'm glad because
nothing happened. I realize that. My husband simply adores baseball, and when all is said and done, I'm glad he had a companion at the games. He was understandably embarrassed at first to tell me that his new friend was a young woman for fear I would object, which I did. But my dear, there is no harm in going to a ball game. And there is no law that says men and women can't be friends. Why, some of my dearest friends are men.
I'm glad you understand.
Not only understand, but we'd be delighted to have you join us sometime for dinner. I'd say that we should all go to a game together, except for I despise baseball. Although I haven't told Michael, and I hope you can keep my secret.
Sure thing.
Could I trouble you for change for the telephone?
Of course.
Hello? Excuse me, but I've been trying to get past your secretary all day.
Mr. Kahn, you caught me at a most inconvenient time. Can we make an appointment for tomorrow?
This'll only take a minute.
I don't have a minute.
Well, you better find one unless you want a work stoppage at Heritage Village.
You people always make the same threat. What is it now?
There are day laborers on site digging sewer lines.
Good.
The contract assigns that job to the pipe fitters.
They're not moving fast enough.
They are exactly on schedule.
We've revised the schedule. Sales are better than we expected, and the buyers are eager to move into their new homes.
Well, then authorize overtime.
Why don't you authorize higher productivity?
Those men are working full bore.
I can find men who work harder.
Is that your code word for scabs?
I don't speak in code. I speak in plain English, and I want men with incentives.
You signed a contract.
Under duress. I was forced to sign or face one job action or another. You engage in legalized blackmail, as far as I'm concerned, both inside and outside the factory.
Well, without that legalized blackmail, as you call it, there'd be no protection for those workers.
Workers of the world, unite. Go ahead, do it on your own time, but not on my payroll. Thank God the House Un-American Activities Committee is finally looking into your unions. The Republican Congress may very well set things right before the communists take over.
Okay, well, if it's all right with you, I'll have the supervisors come down here tomorrow in their lunch hour, and you can explain your perspective to them, and they'll explain their perspective to you.
I relish the prospect.
I'll do what I can, but I already talked to another woman reporter this morning.
That must have been Judy Owen.
I don't understand why everybody's so interested in that development.
Well, what with the housing shortage and all, anything like this is good news. And I guess we got our wires crossed at the paper. I'll let the editor know he's sending everyone out on the same story.
I don't mind talking to you people. I just don't think that I can be of much help to you. You can learn more from the library than from me. For heaven's sake, I never even knew that President Garfield slept there.
I never knew that either.
Well, in my opinion, it's a story cooked up to justify hiking the prices on those homes. Now, nobody can prove that Garfield slept there, but nobody can prove that he didn't. Although, I never heard the story as long as I owned the property.
How long did you own the property?
20 years. I sold it to the Sloans in 43, and I heard that they sold it for a good profit after that.
The Sloans sold the land and bought it back?
Well, either that or the buyers defaulted on them. Anyways, they're sure going to turn a pretty penny on it now.
I'll say.
This is the photo I made from the envelope. Here in the upper portion, you see that bifurcation ridge? And it's a direct match with the partial print I found on the glass. It's as conclusive as it gets. They match on 5 points.
Not the least doubt. The fingerprints are identical.
Identical.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, anytime, ma'am. Good night.
Good night.
Excuse me, sir.
What prints are identical?
The fingerprints on the blackmail note match the fingerprints on that glass.
Where did the glass come from?
3 guesses and the first 2 don't count. She's had the wool pulled over your eyes since the moment she sat down at the stadium.
Hello? Hello, Pearl Roadhouse? Hello?
Hello? I didn't mean to scare you.
We're closed, Mike.
You've bent the rules before. Let's have a drink.
I can't tonight, Mike.
Will you be going to the home games again this year?
If you want to drink, you can drink alone.
You used to be so friendly when it suited your purposes.
What is that supposed to mean?
I truly thought we met by accident.
We did.
And did you arrange to meet Mr. Nadolski? Was that another happy coincidence?
What did Nadolski have on you, Mike? You can tell me I'm not going to tell anyone.
I will not be played for a fool again, and I will not be blackmailed.
Was he blackmailing you?
What a piece of work you are.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I would have given you money any time you asked. You could have simply
I don't want
asked.
any money.
Your fingerprints were all over the note. You can scream your bloody head off. You're not going to get a penny out of me, tramp. I put the fear of God into her.
If indeed you put the fear of God into the barmaid, then either she has an accomplice, or fingerprints do lie, or that fingerprint expert we hired is as incompetent as our plumber.
What happened?
Not 5 minutes ago, we got another note from our friend, who would be ever so grateful if we left the money in this candy box in Branstetter's display window tomorrow. This will certainly make a memorable Valentine's gift for someone. What did you get me this year, darling?
Stockroom, Miss Haley. Would you watch the phones?
Gladly.
It's the purloined letter.
What?
The Edgar Allan Poe story. Leave the item in question in plain sight. It's safe. Everyone else will buy candy off the shelf, except for our friend who will buy the one in the display window. And even if the police were watching, the blackmailer could easily plead innocence. I thought it was candy.
Well, now we know the blackmailer reads Edgar Allan Poe. Shall we add that to our list of clues? Truth is, this situation is as impossible for the blackmailers as it is for us. After all, they're committing felony. Who's to say we won't turn her or him or them in?
How can we?
Well, I'm speaking in the abstract. The blackmailer must be as nervous as we are, if not more so.
That gives me comfort.
Good evening, Mrs. Sloan.
Mr. Khan. Anything interesting in the news?
Well, according to the former ambassador to Russia, we are in danger of imminent attack. Other than that, all's well.
How's your wife?
Getting stronger. She's exercising with leg braces.
Good. Do give her my best.
I will. Thank you. I'm just getting her some reading material.
Oh, how thoughtful.
And some Valentine candy.
We shall see what we shall see.
Are you certain those were Judy's prints on the glass?
I saw her holding it.
But are you sure it was her glass? Perhaps she was waiting on someone.
Roadhouse was filled to overflowing. Are you saying that every bar hopper in this city is a suspect? Blackmailer was, I would gladly wring his or her neck with my bare hands. Gladly. Would you care for a piece of candy, dear?
Usually the host is home before the company arrives.
We thought you might be wondering why the candy box was empty, and we felt we owed you an explanation.
As you owe us.
You see, at the last minute, I simply couldn't bring myself to leave that much cash in a public place. I was afraid some innocent person might stumble upon the money, and therefore, as you undoubtedly know by now, the candy box was empty. We were aware that you might be upset when you found that out, but it bought us time, as they say in those awful gangster movies, to sort this mess out, and fortunately, we did.
Why on earth would you put money in a candy box, let alone break into my flat?
Oh, come now, dear. We've had so many successful negotiations with you in the past. I'm quite disheartened you didn't feel you could simply approach us with this one. We'd have gladly cooperated, just as you gladly agreed to watch the phones today and offered to gladly return our files in your first extortion note.
You're accusing me of something because I used the word gladly?
Oh, heavens no. We have your fingerprints on the ransom note. First, I mistook them for someone else's, but I'm certain they're yours, and I've collected some objects from your apartment for comparison purposes.
I suppose I should have come forward straight away.
Yes, you should.
But I was afraid that if I acknowledged my association with Mr. Nadolski, then his widow might find out, and I wanted to spare the poor woman's feelings.
Which leads us to the question of when you went into business with Mr. Nadolski.
The truth is, I didn't know Mr. Nadolski at all well. May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, yes.
He was only a casual acquaintance. He was a regular customer at Pearl's Roadhouse, where I go now and again. And one evening, he struck up a conversation with me. He was every bit the gentleman, polite and not at all pushy. He introduced himself by claiming to recognize me from the factory, but I couldn't for the life of me recall ever having seen him there. He told me he was working for you, and that was why he came to the plant.
We did hire him.
To write promotional material for Heritage Village.
Then he had seen me at the plant. He was telling the truth.
At least about that, he was.
Mind you, I hadn't the slightest idea he was a married man. He never wore a wedding ring, never hinted, as you Americans put it, that he was tied to a ball and chain. So I was shocked and saddened to learn he left a widow behind. It's some small consolation that neither his wife nor I were ever publicly humiliated by his actions.
How lucky for you both.
There's very little else I can tell you about him. We were certainly never business partners. I had no idea he was involved in anything underhanded. He didn't seem the sort.
Imagine our shock.
It was also a great shock to me to discover that Mr. Nadolski was in possession of so much information about your investments. It must be very unsettling indeed to have your records scrutinized by a stranger.
But if your relationship with Mr. Nadolski was serendipitous and casual...
How did you come into possession of his research material?
He invited me to dinner, and against my better judgments, I accepted his invitation.
This was...
the night he had that unfortunate accident.
Ah.
He was in high spirits. He wanted to celebrate what he called a most successful business venture. He was terribly excited about it. Very proud of whatever enterprise it was he had been engaged in. Not that he gave me the details. He was tight-lipped about the details. Except to say that whatever financial deal he had just concluded was with you, Mr. Sloan.
I had paid him for his promotional material for Heritage Village.
So again, he was telling the truth. He also claimed that you gave him a very expensive bottle of scotch as a thank you. A Highlander's 12-year-old, I think it was.
I didn't give it to him, but it was my scotch. We had, as you say, concluded our business, and as a matter of common courtesy, I proposed a drink to seal the agreement. Common courtesy, it appears, is not as common as one would like. I misjudged the man.
So, over dinner that evening, Mr. Nadolski persuaded you to become part of his venture?
Not at all. We never ate dinner. I had misgivings, well-founded as it turned out, about socializing with a man I knew so little about. I asked him to take me home. He agreed immediately, a gentleman to the end. Perhaps he had had more to drink than I had realized. Or perhaps we had a flat tire because he lost control of the car when we came off the road.
You were in the car when he crashed?
I don't know how I was lucky enough to survive. I must have a guardian angel looking after me. I was able to leave the scene of the accident before anyone happened by. You understand, I did not want to compromise my reputation. Society thinks the worst of divorcees.
That is certainly true.
I was also able to bring Mr. Nadolski's research with me. When I read those papers, I realized that the authorities might not look kindly on you either.
And as you undertook to hide that research from the prying eyes of anyone who might happen to stumble upon the wreck,
the police were sure to find it.
You feel it reasonable that we express our gratitude.
We understand that you would want to be compensated for your trouble.
Fair market value. Isn't that what you Americans say?
It is reassuring to see an immigrant pick up our customs so quickly.
Where is Mr. Nadolski's research now?
Hidden.
Mrs. Haley, would you excuse my wife and me for just a moment?
Certainly.
We are not going to pay her cash.
I agree. There is a simpler solution.
I agree. Mrs. Haley, have you ever heard the old saying that if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day?
But if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Well, we'd like you to eat for a lifetime.
We believe your demand for cash is short-sighted.
Is that so?
Please look at it from our point of view. If we give you the money you ask for, there's no reason to believe that you won't ask for more after it's spent.
That's too much of a risk for us to take.
You'd rather risk going to jail?
Of course not. We don't want you to go to jail either, which is where extortionists regularly end up. On the other hand,
if we give you 2% of the privately held stock in Heritage Village, eventually you will earn much more than you've asked for.
but any negative publicity regarding the housing development would reduce the value of the stock.
And therefore you will be as eager to protect your investment as we are to protect ours. And that would make us feel ever so much more secure than simply handing over cash.
Does the proposal interest you?
I warned you, it smelled.
As long as it works, who cares about the smell?
Now, Satcher says you keep on doing whatever exercises you've been doing, whatever the doctor tells you to, but don't expect any improvement for a few weeks. Sorry it took so long to bring it. It was ready a few days ago, but Mr. Sloan had me working late Thursday and Friday cleaning up his workshop, which he does once a year, and then I had to work in the cafe.
Thursday night was the night that reporter died.
I heard he'd been drinking.
You said you worked late Thursday.
After midnight with Mike Sloan looking over my shoulder every minute of the time. When it comes to his workshop, nothing will do. Everything has to be perfect. And he's got to be right there to see that it is. I don't know, it always seems like I give out before he does. I don't know where that man gets his energy from.
I'd have picked it up myself, but I thank you for bringing it over.
You, let me know how it's coming out, you hear?
I'll do that, and thank you. If Abe was with Mr. Sloan till past midnight
Mr.
on
Sloan
Thursday,
couldn't have murdered Nadolski.
Well, you seem disappointed.
He's been up to something illegal or he never would have threatened me. Whatever it is, odds are, he'll get away with it. People like that always get away with murder.
Figuratively speaking, you mean?
What are you doing here so early? That's fine.
The land under Heritage Village has been sold at least 3 times in the space of 12 months.
And?
And the Sloans bought and sold it every single time, as far as I can tell. County records were a dead end. They only record the sale.
But if their names are on record, why would...
They weren't. The buyers and sellers were corporations. 2 headquartered in Connecticut, 1 in Pennsylvania, which is why I needed your contact, who was very helpful because the only shareholders of these corporations are Michael and Ruth Sloan. Michael and Ruth Sloan. Ruth and Michael Sloan. There's only one corporation I don't have the owners of, but the odds are it's
Michael and Ruth Sloan, who kept buying the land from themselves again and again.
Each time at a higher price.
To inflate the value of the property.
Raise the price of the homes, and still get around the 10% profit ceiling imposed by the National Housing Agency on homes sold to veterans.
You think Nadolski figured this out?
Oh, he might have. He put the fear of God into the Sloans at the press conference when he asked, why are these homes so expensive?
Good job, Linda. Great job. I'd suggest another celebration, but...
First things first.
Spoken like a true reporter.
Only one more signature.
My wrist is about to fall off.
Sir, ma'am.
We're busy at the moment, Sam.
There's a phone call I think you'll want to take.
When we're finished, Sam.
He says it's very important and he's under a deadline.
Who is he?
And what deadline is he talking about?
Phil Havel, a newspaper editor, wants to ask you about some corporations headquartered in Connecticut and Pennsylvania.
We'll take it. Excuse us for a moment, Miss Haley.
The allegation is that you have artificially inflated the price of homes at Heritage Village by purchasing the undeveloped land from yourselves by using out-of-state corporations. Do you have any comment on this allegation?
Yes, we do. We are shocked by such an allegation.
And we are completely innocent of any wrongdoing, Mr. Havel. But if you'll provide our accountants with whatever information you have.
We will personally look into the matter
And have a more complete response for your paper.
after we have had time to analyze the record.
How long will this be?
As soon as is humanly possible.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I thought Mike Sloan was coming down! Ladies and gentlemen! Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Sloan have asked me to read a prepared statement for members of the press.
Why did you open a corporation in Connecticut?
It has recently come to our attention that there may be irregularities.
Maybe?
Irregularities in the formula used for pricing some of the homes in Heritage Village. I want to assure you, any irregularities are the result of unintentional accounting errors.
I'm sure it's
I've already taken steps to ensure that any breach of legal or fiscal propriety is dealt with appropriately.
Who put the pins on you, Uncle Sam?
These new homes are the finest available in northeastern Ohio.
Just an hour and 48
We
minutes.
regret to say that our investigation of accounting records has brought to light another potentially more serious problem. We have learned that the man serving as business representative for several of the construction trade locals, whose hard-working members have built these fine homes by the sweat of their brow, that man is a known communist.
Communist? Who is it?
We do not yet know to what extent this card-carrying subversive has been engaged in illegal financial manipulation intended to undermine the completion of Heritage Village. But Sloan Industries hereby categorically refuses to have any further dealings with Mr. Al Khan or any other member of the Communist Party, and refuse to do business with any contractor or subcontractor who employs
There's money to burn. You don't believe it, what with high taxes and all? Well, just watch their smoke. All that fine folding money is being assembled in bales of 500 bills. Well, look and weep. They handle it just like so much cordwood. Now it's on the last mile to the fiery furnace. Millions of dollars of it. What a place for money to wind up, in a furnace. But they say the life of a $1 bill is only a year or two, then it's taken out of circulation. But even when they're tattered, they look nice, don't you think? But the government says it's got to be. If you can't bear it, don't look.